Welcome to the Monday morning inspiration for the joy of creation. I'm so glad you are here. And today I have my dear friend Fiona McDonald Baylis from Australia here with me as my guest. And it is so amazing to have you, Fiona. What can I say about you? What I sense about you is the joy. And, you live in Queensland, Australia, but you are originally from Scotland. And what I know about you is that you are an actress. You were in London as an actress. You studied acting. And you have been in many different areas. You are a singer-songwriter. You are an amazing healer, and you are also a psychic and a medium. And what you told me is that you, by asking a lot of questions all your life and also using the Access Consciousness tools, which are questions, and you are also an Access Consciousness certified facilitator. So by using questions, it allowed you to actually also find gifts that were sort of new to you, or, what is it? And I'm wondering, what is it that you know about the joy of creation? This is a question that I love asking, and I'm really so glad you are here. Here it is nighttime. Here it is Sunday evening. And I thought, we are still doing a Monday morning inspiration because it's Monday morning by you.
It is a Monday morning by me. Bettina, thank you so much. We've been talking about communicating and communing together for quite a while. When I interviewed you, I don't know, was it over a year ago? And so this is an interesting experience for me to be on the other side of this, but it's a communion, it's a conversation, And, when I saw the name of this, I really went to the joy of creation and the question of it. And what I really, really got was, it reminded me when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I can truly say I didn't know which end was up. I was a roller coaster of emotional feeling. Just, in a day I would reach the heights of joy and then the lowest crying, tantrums. And I really was, which I realized later, was expressing everything that was around me, which I didn't really know at the time. And what actually really got me out of that, and I didn't realize that at the time, it was only in retrospect, it was when I was creating, when I was actually, my energy was flowing and into something, whatever that was, whether it was writing or singing or even walking, the energy of the momentum of movement of that life force energy, which is all creation, that's what actually got me moving in the direction of the joy of creation. Before that, when I wasn't creating, I was actually imploding. And I was heavy. And so I had quite an intense childhood in many respects. And, I chose that, and I am who I am today. So there's no play of, oh, woe betide me. I'm not certainly in any mode of victimhood. And yet I know that energy that I was then, I now know much more how to roll with it and follow it and flow with it. And my moments of joy are when I'm in nature, which I live in the middle of nowhere, or somebody said the middle of somewhere, and I said, no, I prefer the middle of nowhere. I live in nature, so I'm constantly with the birds and the green, and when it's dry here, because you get the dry and the wet in Australia. And also that flowing of energy when I'm sitting writing a song, or I'm communing with spirit, or communing with somebody like yourself. This actually then creates a momentum. And yet I know that I always have to be aware of where my energy is and what I'm choosing to do and be with it.
Wow, that is, wow, there's so much in what you were saying. So you were talking about an intense childhood. You were also talking about how you were so aware of everyone else, and how this would then pull you, you know, like thinking, when we think that it is ours, we get dragged into all these whatever energies, feelings, and thoughts from other people. So you say that you were always so aware of everybody else's stuff that it
Yes.
got really intense and confusing. So I wonder also, for everyone who is going to watch this recording, whether it is tomorrow or anytime in the future, how aware are you all of everybody else's stuff? And you know, Fiona, as an artist, as this intensely creative being that you are, how, what it could it be that you are, as an artist, so receptive for all these energies? You also talk about spirit, meaning you talk about, are you talking about beings that don't have a body? Like what is all this? And the more we are receptive for that, the more we are very aware of it, how confusing can it get? And what would you say, from your experience, what could people use to even start finding out what is theirs and what is not?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I really get that, you know, it was as I got older, I actually attended meditation. I actually went to a 10-day Vipassana silent retreat in my 20s. And that was when I first met just how absolutely, basically paranoid my thoughts were. You know, because when you sit in silence, all that's churning in your head. And of course, they're probably not even mine, but I got them to be, you know, I thought they were mine. I got this churning and constant thought. So when you stop running around, you actually, and become quiet, you can do meditation techniques or breathing. But initially, for 10 days silence, that was the first time I probably stopped talking, you know, in you know, the 12, 16 hours you're awake, because I do love to talk sometimes. I got this phenomenal, my thoughts became my words, and it was so strong. And I could hear my thoughts, possibly for the first time. I began to differentiate who the being, the body, and this energy that was just on, you know, fast forward with my thoughts, other people's thoughts, and everything. So that 10 days, at the end of the 10 days, and it was a challenge. It was an absolute challenge. When I started to talk after those 10 days, I got exhausted very, very quickly. Within, you know, everybody was talking on, it was a Monday morning, everybody was talking, and Monday mornings, and everybody was talking, and I was talking, and I realized how much energy I actually use creatively in my voice. I'm very emphatic, I describe, and I use my voice all the time. And I got very, very tired. So that 10 days gave me so much. It actually opened up this huge, like almost like a can of worms, if you will, to show me just how much I had to learn, how much I had to change, not even learn, but to actually just begin to grow into who I actually was, and then what was mine. So I've kind of diverted there. In London, when I moved to London, I went to study classical acting in London in my early 20s. And I remember somebody giving me a crystal. Now, was it me that input the energy of the crystal because I was told it was going to create harmony and balance? I don't know. Everything has a consciousness to me. But there was a quietude with me when I was with that crystal. So whatever it was, and possibly it was the intention of the gift that was given to me that I took. And I began to have a communion with other things that had consciousness, which was a massive wake-up call for me. So you see, Bettina, I can go to lots of different places, but I have to say spirits have been a gift to me. When I was the odd one out, when I was being rejected for just being me, when I was told to keep my mouth shut because I wasn't want to be heard, not even by my parents, but by other people, because I was so excited. I was that wonderment child, you know, everything was a curiosity. And I remember going to brownies, you know, the little brown, little elves and spirits that we used to be in brownies. Do you have brownies in America?
Sure, we do.
You know, yeah, all over the world, isn't it? And I remember Brown Owl taking me aside, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but you know, you're never going to fit in, you're always going to be odd, and you're actually, you know, let's actually begin to celebrate that, celebrate the differences that we be and the uniqueness that we be. I was such a wonderment child, full of curiosity and inspiration and enthusiasm. So that was the beginning of, you know, like quashing my exuberance for life, if you will. And also I recall, is it okay me just letting you know these little bits and pieces of things that occurred? It's to give examples of, I recognize now that I let very little inhibit me from who I truly be, and the joy that I be, and the creative energy that I be.
Fiona, let me just quickly ask you, has this always been like this? You know, like what was it actually? You said so many people told you to sort of shut up, stop talking, or stop being so excited, or whatever they said, stop being so joyful, or so when did it turn for you that you actually recognize that it is a gift? How many are, I'm just wondering how many of our viewers also have received messages like that. Stop being so excited, stop being so active, stop being so obnoxious, or whatever we were all being told, like sit still or whatever. So what was it that made you actually find for you that it is actually okay to be you?
Great. Yeah, thank you for that. Spirit. My grandmother used to talk about the occult, which means unknown. She used to tell me about the other side. She used to tell me about the meetings that she used to go to. And I was very little, and yet I remember all this wonderful world that she told me about. She told me from her point of view about the seven heavens, and how there it was very different, and that there was a world of spirit. And I began to realize that I've never ever really been alone. I've never been alone. And I really get that, you know, if we all became aware of who truly, really walked beside us, that we'd never be isolated or alone again. So I began to embrace that. I went to spiritualist churches in England. I began to attend them, and also I studied a little bit, and I realized that I was very, very psychic. And have you got something? Are you okay then, darling?
I'm totally okay. It's so funny. Something just caressed my head, you know, here, and it's like,
oh, have you?
I know this by now, and it's like, wow, I first thought there's an insect, but it's not, and I know this by now. So wow, this is so beautiful. I love our conversation, the invisible world.
Is this a motherly
it is it is like playful, right? Like, hey, I'm here, we are here, and it's okay. And there is this, you know, you were talking about the brownies, you know, for me they are like very playful and very joyful, and so there's like a very gentle playful presence that is just like you know, Fiona, in this reality, so many of us take the other side, or entities or spirits or whatever. It's about ghosts, it's like scary, it's like the, you know, Ghostbusters or the demons, but like, you know, it is beautiful that we are having this conversation, as I also grew up having these invisible friends that I had conversations with. So you had your your grandmother who was opening that entire world for you. Wow, this is beautiful. So please keep talking. They are here with us.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, our benevolent beings can only be there.
Yeah.
They're always there. And yet it's, unless we ask, and I know that you know this, unless we ask for them to contribute to us, they're actually, by the universal law, because this is a free will universe, we have to ask for them to contribute to us. And they really, really do. And they begin to, there's like an expansion of energy when we're open. And look, I've been really tested on that dark, fear-based stuff that you can get into. At one time, years ago, I was sitting in meditation, and this voice just came across and said, "You'd better leave there now." So this energy was coming in, basically like an anti-conscious energy, but it scared the bejesus out of me for quite a while. And yet that was such a gift, because the gift was, am I going to let something be more potent? Am I going to let something dictate to me my choice to create something different? It's such a huge subject, you know. And I know that you and I would talk.
Yeah, and at the same time, you know, like, who is actually in charge? Like, you know, the way I see entities and spirits, and I know them from songwriting, and I know them from painting. They are entities, and they have a life force of their own. And I, on this journey, then I learned actually that I can also ask for specific, or let's say I can ask for benevolent entities to come to me, and the other ones, I ask them to not even come to me. Or in Access Consciousness, then we have all these amazing tools that we can use. And, you know, like, what if an entity or a spirit, as you know, this is what you said already, what if they are not more powerful than we are? What if we are willing to be the dominating energy? And like, if something is playing tricks on us, well, do we have to keep it in our lives, right? Or can we just say, hey, move on? Or you know, I don't choose to allow you to be more powerful than I am.
Look, I do a lot of work with people who have got the, you know, they've bought into anti-consciousness, and also space clearing, you know, like business premises, people's houses, you know, remotely and also in person. And it's very interesting what can be hanging around the land, like particularly, for example, in Australia. There's a whole culture of amazing Aboriginal land communions, and there's places that you just wouldn't go to, because that's their space, that's their place. So unless you're asking, I mean, there's some places where you walk here, you know, secret women's business, secret men's business, that you don't walk as a woman if it's a secret men's business. You wouldn't take something if it's a secret man's. You wouldn't take a rock or a pebble or something. So it's really about honoring the land, particularly in Australia. And it's an asking permission. In fact, I've got a lovely story. When Tony, my husband, and I, he found the land here, the place with property here now, the retreat. When I was walking 800 kilometers in Spain, I was walking the Camino de Santiago on my own. And he found this place and bought it. And I was like, what are you doing? I haven't even seen it. And so when I came here, I asked the Aboriginal ancestors to honor us, to caretake their land. And a week or so later, I think there was an eclipse, a solar eclipse. It was November the 9th, I remember that. And we weren't in the house yet. It was such a state, this place. So we were at our camping area. And our friends arrived, and they jumped out of their car and they said, we've got an Aboriginal welcoming song to welcome you onto the land. And so we had a campfire, and we were using the clap sticks, and Tony, my husband, also, you know, he was joining in, and we were dancing around the fire while singing this song. And it was like asking that, honoring where we be, you know, this sacred earth that we're with. And it's not to make it hugely significant, but, you know, our footsteps make a difference wherever we be, you know. And
Yes.
I just thought that was so beautiful, and I felt so graced. And you know, the work I do with the retreats that I have here, I do it at that camping area. We've got a big shed and it's in the open, and we've got beautiful birds and trees and bushes. It's lovely, and it's separate from the house. And the energy over there where we did that song, when I'm working, I always am very aware of the ancestors coming in, just to be there, just that energy of space, of contribution, you know. So I feel very blessed with that, you know. And you know, what else can we be aware of? That if we just open up and expand, you know, there are phenomenal high vibrational beings. You know, you just touch the awareness of angels, and they're huge, huge beings in vastness. You know, there's devic energies in the trees, and I know that you know this because I see you're a nature. You know, I'm sure you run naked in the rain. These nature spirits in the water and the sprites, and you know, it's just such a delightful world. And
Yes.
I would show, really, it's just popping here now. We got married on the land here at Utopia. So beyond the utopian ideals, I need to call it beyond Utopia. We got married on the land. And one of the things of getting married here was because the land here had been forgotten to a degree on the elementals. So all the children in the area, I directed a little fairy play, and we put fairy lights in the crepe myrtle out the front, and we had a bagpipist and a harpist, and when the sun went down and we put the fairy lights on, and all the young children with their fairy wings, we called them hummins. You know, not humans, but hummins. We were waking the hummins up to the elementals. So it was basically an introduction to invite the elementals here back to the land. So it's pretty special here, you know. Yeah, so that was lovely. And there was a few children that came. It was their first wedding that they'd ever been to, and they thought all weddings were like that. You know, we had a fire juggler and magician, and they thought every wedding they go to is like that. So it was quite funny.
Yeah, what a joy of creation that is, you know. And then I love the question, and maybe this could also be a question that everyone who will watch this video could ask, like when we ask, what else can I be aware of? Maybe also asking, what am I aware of? Like, see, when you talk about the energy of spaces, the energy of the land, and I'm wondering if when you watch this here, whoever you are, have you ever noticed that sometimes you come into places or spaces and some have you feel really great, your body is totally relaxed, and then there might be other spaces and places where there's something odd or you are not at ease. And I wonder how much can we also trust our body on that, right? Does our body give us information about energies, about beings, about places? I just know from my own experience, there are sometimes places that I went to where what comes right now is Sedona area in Arizona, where there are sometimes energies that are they are interesting, and I don't even have words for them. But at times my body is just backing off, right? And at other times there are other places where my body is just like sinking into it and opening and relaxing. And so when we then start asking a question like, wow, what is this here? What am I aware of? Or as an example, I used to be very scared of going into the ocean and swimming in the ocean. And I remember, especially in Molokai, Hawaii, I sat at the beach and I was actually starting to cry because I wanted to go in. The water was so delicious and so beautiful, and I couldn't. I couldn't, and it was so odd. I was sitting there and crying, as this was way before I had the Access Consciousness tools. I I thought I was crazy. I was weird. Why am I scared of water? What is this? I should be okay. Yet what I heard then many years later is when Shannon O'Hara, who is also Talk to the Entities facilitator, owner of the business and creator of Talk to the Entities, she said
amazing.
she just asked, well, what were you aware of? Which is an amazing question. And I got all this information about water spirits, about also in the Hawaiian culture, like what are they actually playing with, working with? What are the Aboriginal entities on such an island, right? So when that is a beautiful conversation, and we could talk about this forever, but trusting that, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And what can we create with that when we don't, like I was making myself wrong right then when I sat at the beach and I was banging my head against the wall. But what if we are not wrong? What if we instead ask a question and then what, Fiona? We ask, like, okay, let's say somebody is asking now a question and we are talking about creation and the joy of creation. So let's say they ask, wow, what am I aware of here? Then what?
Yes. You know, there are 4 questions that I really live by. And, you know, we are all energy. And everybody watching this, I'm sure you're aware of that. You know, we literally are all energy. And when you go down to the very tiny quark, quantum particle of energy, you get 1 oomph matter, and the rest is 99.139% space. You know, so we're energy. So the 4 questions of when you walk into a room, when you walk into a space on the land, when you've got that with the ocean, it is, what is this? And it's literally, what is that? And it's your body which goes out before you. Your body knows where you're going to sit in the place, and everybody kind of gathers together. That's very similar vibrational frequency in a crowd. You discover, it's so interesting that, but you ask, what is this? And it's your body, the sensations of the body that actually give you the awareness. Very much so. You say, what is this? So you might get something in your solar plexus. Can I change it? You know, what do I do with it? And you ask those, and you just allow the energy to unfold and reveal itself with those questions. And if so, how do I change it? And that last question, how do I change it? Usually the energy creates more space, and then you can let it go. But as long as we're aware of something and we've got filters of energy that come and say, oh, no, what's this? And it creates a little bit of fear, we're actually resisting it. So it's not about resisting it, because then it persists and it keeps coming at you. Whereas if you just allow, even though that can be uncomfortable when it is, it's okay, what is this? Allowing it. And then as soon as you get that space that it is and space that it be, you trust. And I now, instead of going to like go, oh, what is that, and protect myself, I do my best to go into the space of vulnerability, because that gives me more awareness of what I'm dealing with. And then I know how to work with it, or just absolutely let it go and release it and return it from where it came from. With, you know, the potency that we be, there is nothing more potent than we ourselves. We're the source of creation. We're what created all of this. You know, we're the director, the costumier, the script writer, the cinematographer. You know, we're all of it. We're even, you know, we even play the parts, you know, just our consciousness sort of throwing itself up onto the screen of our reality, you know. So you are the potency in your world, and you're the source of your creation. And so everything that's just, you know, sometimes we get chickens coming home to roost. Sometimes things show themselves, and it's like, okay. So the more aware you become, sometimes it can be quite uncomfortable, because you're actually opening up something that you've been not even aware of at times, maybe suppressed, repressed, depressed, or pressed, you know, just pressed. And it comes up, and you go, oh, hello. And it's just an awareness of something that maybe another time and space you perpetrated and invoked that energy, and now it's time to go, I'm choosing something different this time, you know. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow,
yeah,
that is beautiful. That, like, wow, thank you so much for this. This is, yes. And what if also nothing is ever wrong? What's like,
nothing
I
is ever
also
wrong.
love asking the question, now
Yeah,
what's right about this? What if we are not wrong?
yeah.
What if our bodies are not wrong? What if we really receive so much information all the time? And wow, this is amazing. So
You know, I made myself wrong, Bettina, so much of my life. So much of my life I was made
mm,
wrong. And we now know that that's the beginning of addiction, you know, and I've had a plethora of addictions in my life. Uh, I was made so wrong in my rightness, in just my exuberance and just natural way to be.
yeah.
And now
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
I love it. The intensity you be like how much is intensity made wrong?
yeah. I was so intense. And I used to swing from one side of the pendulum to the other. And I had friends that asked me, "Oh, Fiona, are you in your holier than thou phase?" So I was being really healthy, or I was in my wild party phase. You know, I had two different types of friends,
Yeah.
extremely bipolar, you know, and in the day I'd be high as a kite and then upset about something because I was so sensitive, you know. So, and now, and I remember the first time I ever went and saw somebody, a counselor, to see if I could sort of make sense of this kind of muck and mire I was in, this emotional roller coaster. And I was crying and I said to her, I just want to be like this.
Ah.
You know? Well, she laughed, actually. She laughed at me. And she's, you know, because I was basically flatlining. You know, that's
Mm.
flatlining, isn't it? She
It's
said,
like dead.
Fiona, she said,
It's like dead.
yes, yes. She said, Fiona, she said, you you will never be like this.
No.
You you will change from this
Mm-hmm.
and you might become like this. so, so I'm nearer that now than I've ever been, you know. And again, those moments in nature, those moments. My
Mm.
husband's a wildlife sound recordist. You know, we travel all over the place, you know, recording bird songs, bird sound. We're in Papua New Guinea. He's just come back from Papua New Guinea. I went for a whole month up in the cloud forest,
Mm.
looking through binoculars at nature, at birds, at tree kangaroos, you know, at cuscus in the mountains. Those moments are absolutely blissful, you know, entering into another creature's world. I can honestly say the dawning of something when the birds, that's so exquisite, you know, to create and be at one with that. And and also the spirit world. You know, I've got some beautiful people on this planet that are grateful that I'm there, and I'm so grateful for them being there as well. We're on a journey. We're all over the world. We commune occasionally together to say hi, how are you going? How's
Mm.
the energy? And that nurtures me and it nurtures each other, and then we carry on going our own individual ways of creating what we're offering in the world to be a contribution.
So
Um,
would you
yeah.
also say then, for everyone who is watching this, would you also say that maybe find people who are really having your back, find people who are supportive to you, who don't try to make you little or suppress you, but really find these people no matter where they are in the world, and nurture that? What if we can actually have our support group, right? And what if we are not alone? And so what if this support group can be beings that don't have bodies, and then also people who have bodies, right? How wonderful can this be? And I know that the artistic world, like being an artist, is often being alone in our studio, or we are just creating and writing songs, or writing books, or yet I wonder if we really all also cultivate these these amazing people, or maybe if any of you don't have anybody in your life that is having your back, maybe you can start asking questions like, what would it take for people to show up who are supportive and who tell me how great I am, and who have my back, who are present, who I can call or have a Skype conversation with no matter where they are in the world, and what's it going to take for this to show up. What I find is like asking questions is one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves, where we don't conclude anything, we don't dismiss anything, we don't judge, but we instead ask a question. And you Fiona, you are really great about asking questions, and you say also how this has led you to find the gift of channeling music from the other side for people who are in grief. Would you like to briefly talk about that?
Well, it started when I was I've always sung. A very dear friend of mine in the 80s, Brian, he found out just at when AIDS and HIV began to come into our midst. He found out he had HIV. He was HIV positive, and before that, he was a wild party guy. He was called Brenda Beehive in Covent Garden. He was known. He was a wig maker, and he made these huge beehives for an opera, a musical, and they called him Brenda Beehive because he was so good at them. And he was gay, and he used to dress up and go to Germany, Berlin, and wear crinolines and stellies. And he was like my spiritual mentor for quite a while, and probably the first that I met after my grandmother. And when he discovered he had AIDS, he actually then decided to dive into the information of life after death, the spirit world, and he actually was given drugs, like I'm not sure, it was called ZT, I can't remember the name of the drug, but he was tested on animals. And I remember him saying to me that when he started to take it, which was actually to suppress the HIV virus, he was having nightmares about being extracted. You know, he was feeling the animals' pain. And I remember him telling me the first time, because he started to actually attempt to astral travel and come out of his body. And the first time that he actually did it, he was with this man for the evening. And so this guy was asleep at night. And he came out of his body, and it freaked him out so much. He started to scream, but he was screaming. He wasn't screaming in the physical realm. So it freaked him out. It just makes me laugh when I was telling you. And it really was up to asking me questions. And then he used to come out of his body and started talking to other beings. So he went on this huge journey before he passed over on the 1st of July 1990, and he actually took me with him on that journey. And when he passed over, he went up to Scotland to leave his body, and he didn't. Then he came back down to London, and he gathered his 4 wild redhead female friends. There was 4 wild redheads, and he went into a hospice, and we 4 tended him 24 hours a day. We took it in turns. And he passed over, and I was actually asleep. I was meant to be on watch, and I fell asleep at home in London. And when I woke up, I realized that I was actually on the other side helping him pass over, because the other 3 were wild party chicks. And by that time, I was actually then aware much more of the spirit world. You know, I started to do spiritual work in the spirit churches, you know, doing overheads and stuff as a medium. So I was actually very aware of that then. And just after that, just literally after he passed over, I started to get this song, this kind of music in my head, and I picked up a pen and I wrote the song for Brian. And that was the first song I actually wrote for somebody in spirit. And at his wake, it was full of Covent Garden opera buffs and everything. And there was little me, you know, standing up and singing this song. But you know, when you just have to do something, like no is not an option. And that's what it was. It it was not an option. It was quite bizarre. It was just this wave taking me. And afterwards, I'm just, gosh, that was very brave. And then I kind of became a nervous wreck after it. Um, but that song began many. I've now got a whole album's worth, which I've been recording. And I've actually been put in front of people, like when I went to New Zealand, I met a lovely lady called Moira. She had a very little while to live. She had cancer. And when I left, she invited me to dinner. And she was talking and got me to talk a little bit. And she was saying, see, look, everybody, it's fine. I'm going to be fine. Because all these people were trying to keep her here rather than honouring her choice to leave. And I came back to Australia. She passed over a few days later. And I wrote a song for her. And it was played at her wake. And it was a bit spooky because we talk about where is she, in heaven or hell. And but her partner loved it and played it for 6 months because it brought her nearer to him. Another lady, Gloria, she also had a brain tumor, and again I wrote a song for her. She passed over, and so there's been lots of them. And then 3 years ago my mother passed over, and I wrote a song for her and spoke her eulogy. And I actually have no idea how I did that, other than when we went to the crematorium, I was very aware of the coffin coming in with these beautiful, beautiful flowers, you know, on the coffin. And there, behind the bearers, was my mother, my grandmother, my stepfather, you know, all of them in spirit, watching, you know, my mother's funeral service. So, you know, so that's what actually gave me the strength to do it. And so I sang a song for her. So I've been working with this wonderful guitarist, and we're recording this album. And what else is possible? You know, the gift beyond, you know, it's called The Gift Beyond. And one of my targets is to travel the world and really invite others to see a different way, a new perception of passing and death and dying. You know, we die so badly or so challengingly in this reality. And what if it could be different? What if it could be more gracefully? What if it can be a celebration?
Well, and you know the thing is, if we die so with such a difficulty and such a suffering, are we then actually even living? You know, if like the fear of death or whatever, and it's so difficult and so dramatic and everybody is resisting it, are we then actually really living? If we really have no point of view about it, it's just like, hey, you know, this body now is gone, but do we actually, and this is also the topic of our conversations, are we eternal beings? You know, like, what if it is the body that is ready to go, or we are maybe ready to have a different body? And do we, the beings, ever even stop? Or is it not all creation? And what can we create if we don't have this point of view? What life can we live? What life can we create when we are not afraid of death, right? And so Fiona, my dear friend, where do people find you? And so if anybody also is interested in your channeled song, or interested in having a session with you, where do they find you? Where do they find your recording?
Well, that's yet to come out. It's yet to come out. But I've got a website on my name, FionaMcDonaldBaylis.com. On Facebook, I have a little group. Well, it's actually not. There's quite a few people on there now. There's about 600 people on there. My closed Facebook group called Tea with Fee. And we just look and create and have some fun. And so basically my Facebook page of my name and that. And also, I'm traveling in Europe again, and I'm really open to going anywhere in the world. I'm actually creating, as we speak, a class called Universing Your Uniqueness, because every single one of us has a capacity that's unique to us, and it's usually the one that's so simple and so easy. We give it away or we throw it away because it's so normal for us, you know. And that's one of my things that I'm working on. And also this, that I'm also creating the gift beyond, you know, a soiree where we talk about life after death. We deal with grief and loss, and actually what is it, and you know, really looking at healing and a soothing balm from the other side, and clearing anything that doesn't allow you to receive and to know that actually all is well, whether we're bodied or disembodied. You know, there is so much fear, and there's so much fear and friction around death, and it's a real, it seems to be, it's a journey. So there's people that go so fast and they leave everybody behind kind of reeling, or then there's the slow descent into it, and that can have a huge healing thing for the people, and yet it's challenging to watch the person suffer often. So there's so much around, and yet all I know, and I've known this since I was a little girl, when my grandmother passed, every time somebody that you really truly care about passes, they give you a gift. There is a blessing from them to you. And also the gift that they give you, apart from something that they send you, is the awareness of what were they to you, and what qualities, what did they have that intrinsically was the energy of them, because they then gift you that for you to have within your being, to create beauty, to create more contribution. And that to me is the gift of when somebody passes over. The more aware we are, the gift we can actually be to those that are close to us, who are passing over. You know, yes, and it moved me so much. Are we up for time, or can I share this with you?
Share this, please. Go ahead. We are way beyond time already, so
I don't even know how long we're meant to be on here. There's near where my mother lived, there's a college called the Arthur Findlay College. Now, Arthur Findlay set up, it's a house, it's an estate, it's in lands. It has like Hogwarts. It looks like Hogwarts. It's this amazing, huge building. It's an old building.
Where's that? Where's that, Fiona?
It's near Saffron Walden in Essex, in the south of England. Wow. And Arthur Findlay set up this fund, a trust of this house, and people fly in from all over the world. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, this is spirit. Yes, mention us. And he created a way to commune with spirit, to channel, to work with the other side. And it's his course, so you have to do his way, his way. But it's extraordinary. And on every Thursday evening, they have a psychic circle, which I started to go to, and I went there, and we all do channelings and psychic for each other. And this particular time, my mother had literally just passed over, just a week, 4 days or something. And I arrived there, and the game, the psychic spiritual game this particular evening was a piece of music. So one was chosen to stand up with your back towards the circle, maybe 10, 15 people there. And a piece of music was played by the person holding it. And so that's what we were doing. And then you turned around, and then you gave the gift from spirit. So when you do mediumship, it's different from being psychic. Mediumship is the ability to let that person know beyond doubt who that person is in spirit, and then give them the message. So that's mediumship. So this, so I did mine. I got up and I came to somebody. Anyway, the next piece of music, this woman got up and stood, and it was a piece of music called The Rose. Some say love, it is a river, that one. I'm sure you all know it.
Yes.
And my heart swelled up. I was like, wow. And I didn't realize the connection at the time. She turned around and she came straight to me and she said, there's two women here. I get like a mother energy and a grandmother energy, and your mother they want to honor you and your journey. So this extraordinary, like just immediately. And some say, oh, it takes time. But of course, everybody's on different dimensions all the time. So the spirit can come through immediately from different dimensions. Well, I didn't realize at the time, but when I went and saw my sister, I told her, my mother, before she passed over, I was holding her hand. She said to me, I'm going to come to you, because I always had roses. I bought her 50 golden roses for her 50th birthday. I'm going to come to you through roses in unusual places. And that song was called The Rose.
Oh,
so
beautiful.
How does it get any better than that?
How it does it? When we start opening up to the world that is not visible to us, like, you know, I love using, like, is the example is oxygen visible to us? It's not yet. Are we receiving it all the time? So what else is there that we can interact with, that we can receive, that we can also create with? And how wonderful if there truly is no end. It is all creation. And the question is really, what do you all desire to create? What did you come here to create? And what contribution can we be to you? So Fiona, thank you so much for being here today. And wow, I'm so grateful and for the conversation.
So great. Really, thank you so much. Thank you. It's just so lovely to commune with you and everyone else. You know, just open up, throw the fear away. It doesn't exist anyway, and just be who you truly be. And there's an energy which, when we are all being, it creates the change we're all looking for. And the energy is loving. It's just loving. That energy of loving, which is a momentum of peace and gratitude, and loving is the energy that we're all really, that's the choice now I'm choosing to be, that loving energy, that momentum. It's a movement, it's a moving energy of loving. And you know what it will take, but it's all to be that loving, gifting energy of total allowance and appreciation from everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for watching. And you are so welcome. Find Fiona on her website. I will also post it here, and underneath the video you will find all the information. And what else is possible? What can you create? What can we all inspire in the world, beyond fear, beyond doubt, beyond grief? But the joy of being here and creating with all the molecules. Bye, everyone.